Okay. I have just a couple slides left. I'll go over really briefly. Spacing of plants, I cannot emphasize this enough. If you have, some people say, well, I'll just prune it. I know it's going to get real big, but I'll just prune it. But I think 90% of gardening maintenance is created by not allowing enough space for the plants to grow. So you can use, around your slower growing shrubs, you can try a very low, faster growing ground cover, and then over time that taller shrub just might kind of overshadow the ground cover, and that's okay. That's an evolution of the garden. Soil prep, I tend to be a minimalist, and I do amend planting holes, especially if the soil is really bad, but I don't do wholesale rototilling. I suggest that people, if they can, avoid rototilling. And I like to just disturb the soil as little as possible and work as much as possible with what you have and build your soil over time.
Do you test the soil first?
You know, I usually don't. It is a good idea, especially if you have an area of your garden where nothing grows. Because that suggests to me that somebody may have dumped some paint, you may have some lead there over the years. But I haven't for the most part. I just try to give the plants a really good start. I use aerated compost tea, which is a product available at Lingso's. I use something called essential soil, because I want those plants to get a really good start.
So the sod cutter is just like a knife blade that goes underneath?
Yes, you can rent sod cutters. And I usually go down about 6 inches. Watering, I don't have time to talk about watering, but maintenance, like I say, more minimal if plants are properly spaced. I prefer minimal pruning myself. And then what to think about while your lawn decomposes. And first of all is, what kind of gardener are you? Do you like to get out and futz around in the garden, or are you just looking for something that maybe you go out 2 or 3 times a year and do something? I always suggest that people draw up a scaled sketch of your yard, because that really gets you thinking about how you want to use the space. And once again, maybe there's that Japanese maple you're attached to. Well, then that becomes a really important design issue. And then also note the sunshade patterns in different areas of your yard at different times of the day, because that's going to drive your plant choices and your watering. And I have a few minutes for questions, if anyone has any questions.
What's the reason that weeds don't grow? Because of this craft paper underneath, the builder's paper? And
Yes, what you're doing is you're depriving the plants or the weeds or whatever, the lawn, of sunlight. Obviously, you're not going to.
If new weed seeds blow in or whatever,
Well, that can be a problem. Weeds are forever, and even with these techniques, I can't promise you'll never have to weed.
I've read that the best time to really start your garden is in the fall. And so I'm hearing from you that we should start decomposing our lawns now, and then by fall. Are you saying that that's the best time to plant? Is it October, November? What would be or does it depend?
It depends upon the weather, but I will tell you something. People plant year-round. In the landscaping industry, we would be street people most of the year. If we didn't plant year-round, yes, it can be more of a challenge, but some of these gardens have gone in the summer. The one that I showed you with the salvia with the front yard sitting area, that went in about August, September. And there was very low mortality. But the optimal time, I think the optimal time starts about October, November, ideally after we've had 1 or 2 rains. And then some people tend to think, gee, if I don't have it in by December, it's too late.
Yeah.
And I go, December, January, February, March, April. If you're putting in an irrigation system, I think you can be a lot more flexible. But if you So let's say that maybe you have some shrubs some screening shrubs you would like to get in sooner rather than later. You can find kind of a compromise point. And, maybe you can plant them outside of the optimal window and then just wait to fill in with some of the other plants later. And also, paradoxically, the best time of year to plant is also sometimes the worst time of year to get the plants. They tend not to be as available. Yerba Buena, that I work with a lot, they try and really have a lot of things for that fall window, but okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
After you turn over the sod and made mounds out of it, then how long do you need to wait before you plant?
I would say not very long at all, because this condominium that I'm working in, they cut the sod a couple of weeks ago, and we haven't started building the mounds yet. But that sod is it's dead, and so we're just going to turn it over and compact it and fill in any little holes. We don't want, the sod may tend to make a few little holes, and that's where we want to fill in the dirt. But we're going to plant as soon as we've built the mounds.
But isn't it root impacted?
Pardon?
Aren't the roots impacting that soil?
Well, they're in a state of decomposition. They'll be in a state of decomposition.
Can you talk a little bit about Bermuda grass?
You could promote it, it's the only way to be sure.
Bermuda grass. Well, there are some things. I think that the sheet mulching and heavy mulch can help a lot, but oxalis and Bermuda grass and what's the other, bent grass, are so pernicious that I've even seen oxalis, for example, and bent grass root itself on top of the sheet mulching.
Ooh.
So they're just some things you just have to accept. Going to be a constant struggle, but it is true. Once your garden fills in, those plants are going to be deprived of a lot of sunlight and moisture, and they may still be there. In fact, at one of my gardens at the church, I was down underneath, and darn, it was a nice thick, sages and manzanitas and the ceanothus, and there was that pesky bent grass. Growing up through the, actually in this particular instance, they did use, against my wishes, black plastic, the black plastic landscape cloth. That bent grass was just growing right up through it, as well as the oxalis. Okay, I'll take just one more question, and then I know there's another talk very shortly.
So you said people use different watering techniques. You like best the drip irrigation?
I personally like the drip irrigation, but I do it a little bit differently than other people do. I use more emitters so that the water is delivered equally around the plant, and I never put an emitter anywhere near the crown of the plant. So I might, like a 1 gallon plant, I might put 2 emitters equidistant unless it's on a slope, and they might be 6 to 8 inches away from the plant itself, because I want the roots to grow out towards the water. And that, some people think I'm kind of nuts and think I use too many emitters, but I don't like one emitter on one plant because there is a tendency to put it at the ground, and that's not good. But you could probably get a dozen different opinions on watering. Okay, well, thank you all for coming.